guys, it's Maya, and today I'll be talking all about my UCONN orientation experience. I'll be posting this video on June 3rd, which marks the 1-year anniversary since I had my orientation, so I thought it'd be fitting to make this video. Like I've said in all my past UCONN sit-down type videos, I'm not sure how orientation is going to work this year because of the coronavirus and everything. I'm sure UCONN will contact you with all the information if they haven't already. I'm sorry, class of 2024, that you'll have to be doing it online this year, and I'm sorry that you'll be missing out on some stuff, but hopefully by sharing my experience at orientation, you can learn about what your orientation might have been like had it been at UCONN. So to start off, there were multiple sessions that you could choose. I picked June 3rd and June 4th, which was a Monday and a Tuesday. That was the third session, and I was really nervous about orientation because I didn't know anyone and I just wanted to get it over with, so I picked one of the earliest times possible. Also, just an FYI, I was out of high school by then. I had already had my graduation. I know some people actually had to take some time off of school and miss a couple school days just to make orientation, but I was already out. So there is a parent orientation that goes along with it. My parents went to it and they thought it was really helpful and informative. I'm not sure if they're going to be offering a parent orientation this year for obvious reasons, but the parent orientation did cost a little extra money, but that was just for like the food that they got. They also got like a merch bag, so the cost covered all of that. So we actually drove down to UCONN on Sunday, June 2nd, because check-in was really early on Monday and we didn't want to start driving at like 5 a.m. So we decided to drive down the day before, stay overnight, so we could already be in Stores, Connecticut for the next day. We stayed at the Best Western. We stayed at the Nathan Hale for the accepted students day. I don't remember if the Nathan Hale was closed at the time or if it was just full from all the parents and kids staying over for orientation, but all I remember is that we couldn't stay at the Nathan Hale, so we stayed at the Best Western, which is like 5 to 10 minutes away from UCONN. Overall, the Best Western was a really good hotel, and I'll insert the videos that I took of what the hotel room looked like. One thing that I remember that was kind of strange about the hotel, the room was obviously right next to the corridor, but the windows were facing the corridor, so if you were walking through the hallway, you could look into people's rooms. Here's the window, and then there's the hall, and then there's the other window. So I don't remember what time we got there or anything, but I remember we checked in and we went to dinner at the 99. Then we took a little drive around UCONN. We went to the Big Y, which was the grocery store near the Best Western, and we actually found some UCONN reusable shopping bags, which we bought. The main reason we went to the Big Y was to find carpenter clips because I wanted to attach my water bottle to the side of my like drawstring bag for orientation, but we went on a wild goose chase trying to find these carpenter clips. So after all of that, we came home and I double checked everything that I had packed because I'm so stressed about everything. I brought a bunch of clothes because that's just me. I don't know what the weather's gonna be like. I don't know if the weather's gonna change. So I brought so many different outfits to wear. Then I had a sleeping bag. You could bring blankets, but I think the sleeping bag worked best. It was the easiest option in terms of like packing stuff up because you could just attach it to something. They give you a whole list of stuff that you can bring. Then I remember I looked at the course catalog for a long time. I wanted to be all prepared for when I picked out my classes during orientation, but turns out when I was looking at the course catalog, I was just looking at like the descriptions of the course, and I picked a lot of 3000 level courses that freshmen can't take. So I ended up panicking anyways and ended up taking the dinosaur class. Then I went to bed and I was trying to get an early night's rest because I had to wake up so early the next day, but I just couldn't fall asleep because I was way too stressed about orientation. I was really nervous because you know how I am with meeting people, but I ended up going to bed at 3 a.m. and got like 3 hours of sleep anyway. So the next day was June 3rd, the first day of orientation. So before you actually go to orientation, there are a few things that you have to do. You have to fill out some forms on student admin. You have to submit your picture for your student ID. And you have to take all your placement tests, so the math and chemistry ones. UCONN will email you all this information. It's like your orientation checklist or something. I woke up at like 5:30 to 6 a.m. and as you know, I am not a morning person. So I got ready, went downstairs to get breakfast at the hotel. That day I wore my UCONN sweatshirt, which I wear in practically all my videos, so you know the one I'm talking about. And I wore a UCONN t-shirt underneath it, and that was probably overkill considering my drawstring bag that I had was also UCONN. I dressed in a lot of layers because it was supposed to be cold, but it actually ended up being really sunny and hot out. So check-in was 7:15 to 8:15 a.m. in front of Belden Hall, which is a part of the alumni residence halls. My mother loves being early, so we got there at 7 a.m. I was stressing out in the car as predicted, so we drove around for a little bit while I took some time to collect myself before going in, and then my parents dropped me off because there wasn't really any space for parking. The only good thing about being that early was there wasn't any line, so I didn't have to stand there. When I went in, there was a big long table of student helpers. You had to show the printout of your orientation form or ticket or confirmation email, whatever that was, and then a form of identification, and they checked you off. They told you what letter group you would be a part of and then where to go. They screwed up and told me to go to the main floor of Belden. I didn't want to take the elevator because that kind of looked weird since it's only 2 flights of stairs. So I had to lift my suitcase with wheels and my sleeping bag and everything up the 2 flights of stairs, only to find out that I had to go to Watson, which was the other dorm right next door. But still, I had just gone up the 2 flights of stairs. I didn't want to move. So I had to carry my stuff back down the 2 flights of stairs, go down this little path to Watson, carry my stuff up the 2 flights of stairs to the main level. So I looked for the poster with Group J on it, since that was my orientation group, and I found Ethan, my orientation leader. He checked you off and gave you a UCONN drawstring bag with a map, a water bottle, and some other stuff, and then he gave you a lanyard with your room key on it and told you your room number. It's actually this lanyard right here. Don't know if you can see that, but I use it to put my keys on. It's a really nice lanyard too. So then I had to take all my stuff back down the 2 flights of stairs, go back over to Belden because that's where my room was. And then because I was on the 6th floor, I could thankfully take the elevator and not look weird. The elevator was really slow, but I got in the elevator, went to my room. I believe it was number 618. I definitely know it was on the 6th floor. My roommate had already dropped all of her stuff off, so I just threw everything that I had on the other bed. Setting everything up was a later problem. I had to get to student union for the first part of orientation. I'm so bad with directions and I had no idea where the student union was. By some miracle, as I was walking out of Belden, the UCONN bus pulled up and was taking kids to student union. But I looked around and no one else was getting on the bus, so I was like, peer pressure, I'm not gonna get on the bus even though I don't know where the student union is. But I made eye contact with this guy and he was like pointed to the bus and I was like, yeah, let's take the bus. So this guy's name was Milan. He's really nice. We rode the bus together and then we actually even sat together during the lecture at the student union. So in this lecture hall, there was a big slideshow of everyone's names. There was in the class of 2023, and turns out there's someone actually before me in the alphabet, which never happens. Typically I'm the first, but I'm the second in my class. So that's kind of exciting. Unfortunately, Milan and I got to talking. He wasn't in Group J, so I haven't seen him since. At this opening presentation, they just talked a little bit and we learned like the UCONN Huskies like call and response type of chant. So my group was the first one to be dismissed. So we just met outside the lecture hall and waited for everyone. I'll insert a picture of what my orientation group looked like. We took one on the second day. I'll talk about it more later on. So we had to walk somewhere. I believe it was just to the student union lawn, but we all got to talking and turns out we were all part of the honors program, and it was supposed to be that way because Group J, my group, and then Group I were both specifically for kids in the honors program. On the short little walk from the student union building to the student union lawn, I started talking to this girl named Abby. She was standing next to me in the orientation picture and we stuck together the whole orientation. That was really relieving to make a friend at orientation. So on the student union lawn, we did some introductions and some icebreakers like where the wind blows, and then we met our O buddies, which stands for orientation buddies. So when we have to meet back up and stuff, you have to make sure that your O buddy is there. It's just a quick way for the orientation leader to take attendance without having to call off everyone's names. To this day, I still don't know how to pronounce my O buddy's name. So then after those activities, we got separated into our colleges. So I'm the College of Liberal Arts and Science, CLAS class, and we went to the big lecture hall in Oak where someone gave a presentation on classes and credits, and then we got our class t-shirt. They're actually really nice and comfortable, gotta say. And then after that, we got separated into our majors. Luckily, there were 3 other people in my orientation group who were actuarial science majors. Zach, as you know, Will, and David, who likes to be called Elijah, or maybe it's the other way around. MQ, Joseph Tinnell, gave a presentation on actuarial science and the required classes and everything having to do with our major. I believe he was our honors advisor and he would be our advisor until our actual advisor for our major takes over, but my advisor took over like from the beginning, so not really sure how that worked. And this lecture took like an hour and a half, 2 hours. We met back up and then we went to lunch. The only dining hall that was open was McMahon Dining Hall, and obviously they weren't making as much food as they typically do during the school year. I think I just had french fries because I was too nervous to explore the dining hall. Yes, I know, typical me. So then we had a few lectures, specifically in the ITE building, the lecture hall C80. I don't remember what lectures we had when. I just know that the lectures that spanned over the 2 days had topics like sexual assault and safety at UCONN. We had this like sex ed talk, which was like really awkward since we just met the people that we were sitting with, but the lady was really nice and made it funny and entertaining, but still it was just awkward. And then we had presentations on our student ID and like the replacement policies if we lose our keys, meal plans, and all those meal plan terms that made 0 sense at the time. So during these presentations, we obviously couldn't go on our phones, and the orientation leaders were actually walking around and checking to make sure everyone was paying attention. Personally, I kept falling asleep because it had been such a long day and these lectures were really boring. I kept nodding off and they were like an hour and a half long, which made it even worse. So after the lectures in the ITE building, we had to go all the way to the Austin building building where we had a presentation on the honors program. Lee, my teacher from eGen 3200, actually gave part of the presentation, but they just talked about what the honors program is and honors credit since we'd be scheduling our classes the next day. After all of those boring presentations that were all like back to back, we finally had dinner at like 5 or 6ish. I had french fries again because I did not want to stand in lines. I did not want to try to find where other food was. I just went straight for the french fries, and then I also had ice cream, specifically cookies and cream flavored. Then we had half an hour of free time before we had to meet up again outside of the alumni residence halls. So Abby and I and a few others just went straight there because there's nothing else to do in half an hour. But we just hung out on the grass for a little bit and talked. Throughout the day, we had to come up with a chant for our orientation group, and Abby and I took it upon ourselves to come up with a chant. We had to incorporate the letter J since that was our orientation group. So the two of us and a few other girls came up with a chant. I'm not going to repeat it. I do remember it because it's kind of cringy and embarrassing. But anyway, during this time, we had to teach it to our whole orientation group, and then we had to chant it going into the auditorium that night. We didn't go to Jorgensen. We went to another auditorium that's within the art complex. I'm not sure what it's called. So once we got to the auditorium, we chanted our chant as we walked in, and then we learned the UCONN fight song, and then we watched some vignettes that were put on by the orientation leaders. They were just fun little skits that had like a deeper message to them. I was sitting next to Abby and this guy named Christian, and we had a lot of fun watching the plays. But then in that moment, that was when James lost Jeopardy, and Abby and I got really sad about that. Then we walked back to McHugh for like a reflection on the deeper message of the vignettes. We also got our student IDs, and then it was around 9ish, and we had the rest of the night to do whatever we wanted. There was a curfew at 11 o'clock, so during this time there was karaoke, lawn games. Even though it was pitch black out and you couldn't see anything, there were regular games and some other activities. But Abby and I decided to go to McMahon for ice cream. I thought it was gonna be like actual ice cream, like dairy bar ice cream, or at least hard ice cream, but it was just ice cream popsicles, which was kind of upsetting. But in McMahon, Abby and I ran into Jack, who actually turns out to be Zach's roommate during the school year, and then Irene and Allie. And we ended up hanging out the rest of the night. We went back to Zach's room and just talked about a lot of stuff. Zach's roommate from orientation, not Jack, came back around 10:30, so we all left at that time. I was the only one from Belden. Everyone else used the elevator to go to the different parts of Watson, but I had to walk back to Belden alone in the dark. I'm awful with directions, as I've already said in this video, and I used the wrong door and kind of got lost, but I just had to like go around the building to find Belden. It was bad. I was also panicking that if I didn't get back in time, the curfew at 11, I'd be locked out. I was just being dramatic. Everything was fine. So I was really nervous because I still didn't know who my roommate was. The entire day I had been asking everyone, do you have a roommate? Do you live in 618? But I never figured out who my roommate was. When I opened the door, it turns out it was Julianne, a girl that I had been hanging out with the entire day. She actually even helped come up with the chant. We stayed up talking and like trying to plan our schedules out. We were looking at Rate My Professor and looking through the UNIV catalog. We ended up going to bed like on the early side around 12:30ish because Ethan, our orientation leader, wanted everyone to meet up in the lobby at like 6:30 a.m. We were all trying to get him to change his mind, but no, we had to get up at that time. So then the next day, June 4th, it was really cold. It was in its 40s, but we woke up at 5, but we didn't really get out of bed till 5:30. But then we had to rush to do our makeup and pack everything up and get downstairs in time. Then we had to put all of our suitcases and sleeping bags and everything that we brought in a locked room because we had to turn in our keys. Then we had breakfast around 7. I believe I had breakfast potatoes, fruit, and then French toast. Then of course we had so many more lectures, and once again I was really tired and nodding off during every single lecture because I had only gotten a few hours of sleep. Then we went on a big campus tour. We went inside buildings like the library. Then we went back to McMahon and had lunch around 12. I was finally feeling adventurous and I found where the pasta was, and then I got french fries and I ate the two while standing in line for buffalo chicken. After lunch it was time to pick our classes. On the way we stopped outside the student union to take our orientation group picture. We stood along the wall outside the student union, but groups took them in various spots. We went to the Engineering 2 building to pick our classes. Honestly, being at UConn for a year, I still don't know where the Engineering 2 building is. It was around 1 o'clock at this time. We had 3 hours to make our schedule. We went to the computer lab in the Engineering 2 building and we met with our academic advisor. So I met with James Trimble, who will actually be teaching one of my actuarial science courses next semester. Once again, it was just the 4 of us actuarial science majors, and Trimble was there in case we had any questions and guided us through using student admin and the dynamic class search function, but we were practically on our own in terms of picking the classes. We printed our schedule schedule, and then we went to a room like across the hall. It was now around 4 o'clock, and we just sat there in that room talking to each other and going over our schedule, seeing if we had classes together, and then we played UCONN trivia on Kahoot. Then we went back to alumni, got our stuff from the locked room, and left at 5:30, and that was the end of orientation. Some people stayed to take tours with their families, some people went to the bookstore to get shirts and stuff, but honestly I was so exhausted from those 2 days between getting no sleep and having to do all that walking that we just went straight home and I fell asleep on the way. So that was my orientation story time. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you have any other UConn themed video ideas or any other videos that you want to see, leave them in the comments below. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and follow me on my social media down below, and I'll see you next time.